Across continents and centuries, the human blueprint has danced through climate, terrain, and time. Each variation a testament to adaptation, resilience, and biological poetry. For vast stretches of evolutionary time, spanning hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years, hominid groups adapted in isolation on separate continents. The geography of divergence. Natural barriers formed formidable thresholds, isolating emerging populations from African groups who were pursuing their own distinct evolutionary trajectory. Mediterranean waters. Rugged mountain terrains. Ice glaciers. Large rivers and lakes. Across Eurasia, the emergence of a distinct hominid line, shaped by isolation in environments vastly different from the African plains. Kumbaya, anthropology, and the new orthodoxy. The 1970s saw the rise of a new breed of anthropologists committed to out of Africa. The old white male anthropologists, many associated with the colonial past, were cast aside, their work shelved in favor of the new generation of African origins only scientists. With the rise of the out of Africanists, evolutionary scientists drew a clean line of descent for human origins. This was in sharp contrast to the traditional multi-regional model. Divergence with the chimpanzees 7 million years ago, leading to early bipedal species such as Ardipithecus, giving way to Lucy and the Australopithecines. The genus Homo arises somewhere around 2.4 million years ago with Homo habilis, evolving into African Homo erectus, eventually leading to anatomically modern humans and Neanderthals. It was all very neat and tidy. The anthropologists were quite content. Out of Africa became the operative dogma, modern humans leaving East Africa for Eurasia 45,000 to 50,000 years ago, with full replacement of other hominid species on the Eurasian supercontinent. In textbook diagrams, our origins became a migration route, Africa to everywhere, simplicity sketched over mystery. But fossil evidence continued to emerge, putting the Africa origins only academics in an awkward position. From the 2 million year old Homo erectus finds in the Caucasus to stone tools and cranium in China, from 400,000 year old hominid fossils at Atapuerca to the Epidema 1 skullcap in Greece. These scattered relics spoke of migrations lost to language, of ancestries blurred by time, of a lineage that once walked beside Africa, not behind it. The Africa origins only anthropologists were left stammering. And as we shall soon see, the molecular evidence surfacing in the 2000s did not merely challenge the narrative of the Africanists, it dismantled it strand by strand, revealing a genetic tapestry far richer than their neatly planned simplicities allowed. The genetic case for divergence. With breathtaking speed, the molecular record now confirms visions once championed by multi-regionalists and race typologists, ideas born in the golden age of paleoanthropology. Subspecies exist in modern extant hominids, and by some measures, we may even be separate species. For decades, scientists dismissed the possibility of Neanderthal DNA in modern humans. As late as 2008, Richard Leakey scoffed at the idea during a lecture at the Leakey Foundation, calling it impossible. Richard Leakey, quote, "Recent studies have established beyond any doubt that there are no Neanderthal genes in us," end quote. In 2010, the unthinkable was confirmed. Modern Europeans carry up to 4% Neanderthal DNA. A draft sequence of the Neanderthal genome. At the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Svante Pääbo's team uncovered unmistakable Neanderthal genetic markers embedded in European and Asian genomes. These markers were conspicuously absent in the African genome. Between roughly 120,000 years ago and 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens likely engaged in sustained genetic introgression with Neanderthals. A quiet interbreeding that unfolded over millennia, concentrated in the Levant and along the Mediterranean basin. This hybridization with Neanderthals likely gained Europeans traits for greater immunity, higher intelligence, and cold weather ruggedness. A year later, in 2011, Pääbo's assistant Johannes Krause discovered the Denisovans, extracting the DNA from a sample finger bone sent to the lab by Russian scientists. We now know Asians and Melanesians have about 5% Denisovan DNA admixture. Amazingly, one tribe in the Philippines has 8% Denisovan. But does the fossil record corroborate the genomic rupture? Do the bones echo what Paabo and Krause extracted from the blood? The anatomical uniqueness of extant European and Asian hominid lineages. We shall now examine the extensive fossil record, one that increasingly supports the possibility of distinct, regionally anchored origins on the Eurasian continent. Tracing the split, a hominid lineage beyond Africa. The fossil finds in Israel from Mislia, Skul, and Kafse had long puzzled researchers. Early Homo sapiens appearing in the Levant over 100,000 years before the supposed African exodus, then vanishing without a trace. In 2019, we got the first definitive evidence that early Homo sapiens were inhabiting Eurasia much earlier than out of Africa proponents had believed. A skull cap was first discovered by Athens University archaeology students near an isolated beach in southern Greece in the late 1970s. Years later, it was confirmed to be Homo sapien from the curvature at the back of the skull. In 2015, one of the world's most renowned female paleoanthropologists, Katerina Harvati, re-examined the skull. The high-definition CT scans returned a staggering result, 210,000 years old. The redating of Epidema 1 to 210,000 years ago shocked paleoanthropology stalwarts, challenging their long-held assumptions of early Homo sapien dispersals. Anatomically modern humans were not supposed to be on the European continent 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Paper 2019. Epidemic cave fossils provide earliest evidence of Homo sapiens in Eurasia. Other fossils emerged, suggesting a much earlier date for anatomically modern humans in Europe than previously believed. Scientists were similarly taken aback when a reanalysis of the Slati-Kun woman's genome suggested she lived over 65,000 years ago, pushing Homo sapiens' presence in Europe well beyond the boundaries of the dominant recent African origins timeline. For reference, Slati-Kun is located in southwest Czech Republic. Long believed to be Neanderthal, the Banyoles mandible from Spain was re-examined by Binghamton PhD student Brian Keating in 2019, revealing traits of Homo sapiens and a surprising date of 65,000 years ago. Homo sardiniensis, dubbed the Titanus skull, found in Sardinia, may represent an archaic Homo sapiens dated to around 180,000 years ago. The skull case features a vertical forehead and primitive dentition that hint at an early European divergence. Alas, ignored by scientists, the Sardinian skull casing remains unstudied. According to one of its co-discoverers, the specimen now gathers dust on a forgotten shelf in the anthropology wing of a provincial Italian college. Israeli skulls, Slati-Kun, Banyoles, Epidema 1. They're not anomalies, they're evidence. The recent African origins consensus insisted Europe was a late chapter, but the fossils say otherwise. Modern humans were here long before the gatekeepers of origin theory wrote them in. Middle to Upper Pleistocene in Eurasia. Prior to the firm establishment of the out-of-Africa hypothesis, long-standing paleoanthropologists regarded Homo erectus as an Eurasian species separate from Africa's Homo ergaster. Russian and Chinese anthropologists have always taken that view and still take that view today. Of course, We Are All Africans created a convenient narrative for those anxious to push a political agenda. In 1975, Australian Colin Groves and Czech Václav Masak argued that the African specimen showed enough morphological differences, especially in cranial and dental traits, to warrant a separate species designation. Groves would later recount how Leakey consistently pressured him to abandon the distinct classification of Homo ergaster with strongly worded letters and disinviting him to professional conferences. Recent investigations into cranial structure and postcranial anatomy, alongside a thorough reassessment of the Turkana skeleton, imply that Groves and Masak were likely accurate in their assessments. In 2024, Midwestern University professor Karen Babb was featured on Evolutionary Soup here at YouTube, where she discussed the unexpectedly deeper ribcage of Turkana and highlighted a newly found pelvis of a female Homo erectus from Kenya, indicating the species had a less advanced form of bipedalism. The evidence is clear. Homo erectus and Homo ergaster were never one species. Even more evidence out of Shangchan, China. 2.2 million year old stone tools from Homo erectus uncovered in 2019. The Dmanisi skulls and stone tools in Georgia are dated to 1.9 million years ago. That makes Shangchan fossils and specimens at 2.2 million years ago the oldest in Eurasia. Quote, the evidence from Shangchan opens up the possibility that Asia was a cradle of early hominid evolution in its own right, end quote. Professor Robin Donnell at the University of Exeter. From Homo erectus, two lineages may have diverged, one eastward, Homo heidelbergensis, spreading across Eurasia, and eventually giving rise to Neanderthals and Denisovans. Homo antecessor. Homo antecessor inhabited the caves and roamed the valleys of northern Spain between 1.2 million and 800,000 years ago. Yet it's possible they thrived well beyond that period. Spanish paleoanthropologists like José Bermúdez de Castro and María Martín Torres have suggested this enigmatic species may not be a side branch but a direct precursor to Homo sapiens. Another specimen, the Ceprano skull from central Italy, has confounded paleoanthropologists for decades. At 800,000 years old, some paleoanthropologists, such as Professor Giorgio Manzi of Sapienza University, believe it could be a transitional species from Homo antecessor to modern Europeans. Africa on its own path. Starting with the initial evidence of Miocene apes, probably Kenyapithecus from around 14 million years ago, found by Louis Leakey in Kenya in 1961, African hominids have forged their unique trajectory in human evolution. Leakey once proposed Kenyapithecus as a direct ancestor of the modern human lineage. From the African Miocene apes to Sahelanthropus chidensis to the Ardipithecines, Lucy and the Australopithecines emerged 4.2 million years ago. Around 2.6 million years ago, we start seeing the first stirrings of Homo habilis. Homo ergaster likely emerges on the African savanna from 1.8 to 2 million years ago. Both genetic data and fossil traces suggest the African thread resumes with Homo ergaster, flows through early modern humans like Jebel or Hood, Homo 1 and Herto, and pulses into the present through modern African populations. Meanwhile, an entirely different story for early origins of the hominid line unfolds in Europe and Asia. Miocene epoch in Europe 13 million years ago to 5 million years ago. 13 million years ago, Europe was not a void. It was a cradle. In the tangled green of Miocene forests, the first apes emerged. Dryopithecines with arboreal grace, and Baronius, the smallest known great ape, a leaf eater who climbed where giants walked. 9 million years ago, Orionopithecus, Gracopithecus, and Anadiluvius appeared in Greece, the Balkans, and Anatolia. The fossils unearthed in Greece, Bulgaria, and Anatolia astonished researchers due to their remarkable completeness and excellent preservation, facilitating precise and straightforward dating. In 2002, a Polish archaeologist vacationing with his girlfriend in Greece discovered an extraordinary collection of 24 footprints etched in the sandy rock on a picturesque beach in Crete. Subsequent analysis by scientists from Bulgaria and Germany indicated these prints were likely attributable to Greco-Pithecus. They were dated to 6.1 million years ago. Continuity in Eurasia from the Miocene apes. An alternative evolutionary timeline begins to emerge, Greco-Pithecus leading to the emergence of Homo erectus across Europe and Asia. Approximately 2.2 million years ago, Homo erectus arose, potentially following Greco or a yet-to-be-identified Miocene ape, thereby paving the way for the subsequent evolution of Homo heidelbergensis and Homo antecessor around 1.2 million years later. A tantalizing gap remains between the Greco footprints in Crete 6.1 million years ago and Shangchan, China 2.2 million years ago. A missing chapter in the fossil and lithic record waiting for intrepid archaeologists to uncover. Thanks for watching. These videos take a lot of work. Please show your support for the channel by subscribing, hitting the like button, and passing this video on to others. See you soon.